I just wanted to share my experience with this in case anyone else is considering it, because I have been using it as my main coffee maker, and it has pretty much replaced the routine I used to have with a separate drip machine and a single serve machine. At a basic level, this is for someone who sometimes wants a full pot for the morning, and other times just wants one cup without making a whole batch. That is the main reason I kept it on my counter. On weekdays, I usually make one cup on the way out the door, and on slower mornings I make a full pot and let it sit while I work. If you live with other people who drink coffee at different times, this kind of setup makes sense. If you only ever drink one style, like only drip or only pods, it might feel like more machine than you need. What makes it different in everyday use is how it switches between brewing a pot with grounds and brewing a single cup with a pod. I do not feel like I am wrestling with it. When I want a pod, I open the top and there is an obvious place where it goes. When I want grounds, I close that section and slide it back into the other position, and then I am working with the basket area for drip coffee. It is not complicated, but I did need a couple of days before it became muscle memory. After that, switching back and forth stopped being a thing I even thought about. Physically, it is a fairly large appliance, and it looks like it is meant to live out in the open. Mine has been sitting on the counter, and it has held up fine to daily use. The plastic does not feel flimsy, and the doors and hinges have not started to loosen up. The buttons have a solid press to them. The overall look is modern, but more important to me is that it feels stable when I open and close things. Nothing wobbles around when I am loading coffee. One practical detail I appreciate is the drop-down cup support for single servings. I use different mugs depending on the day. When I use a shorter cup, I drop the little platform down so the coffee lands cleanly in the middle. When I use a taller travel mug, I move it out of the way. That small adjustment does a lot to prevent splashing. I am not constantly wiping coffee off the drip tray area, which is something I dealt with on a couple of older single-serve machines. Setup was straightforward. I rinsed the removable parts, filled the water reservoir, and ran a couple of plain water brews to get rid of any manufacturing smell. The water reservoir sits on the right side, and it is easy to lift out and refill at the sink. The fill markings are clear enough that I do not have to guess. I like that I can glance at it and know whether I have enough water for the next brew. In my kitchen, the placement works because I have space on that side to pull it out. If your machine is tucked under cabinets or squeezed into a tight corner, you might find yourself moving it more often just to refill. The control panel looks busy at first. There are a lot of options, and the first time I used it, I did a little bit of staring and second-guessing. After a few mornings, it became simple. The power and brew controls are easy, and the rest are there when you want them. I do not feel like I need to read the manual every time, but I do think the learning curve is real for the first couple of days. In daily use, I mostly bounce between a single cup and a full pot. For the full pot, I add grounds, choose the brew setting I want, and it runs like a normal drip machine. The carafe pours cleanly, and I have not had issues with dripping all over the counter. For a single cup, I use pods when I am in a rush. The machine handles that without much fuss, and it is nice not having a separate pod machine taking up space. The delay brew feature has been useful in a very normal way. On nights where I know I have an early morning, I set it up before bed. Waking up to coffee already made is not a life-changing thing, but it is genuinely nice, and it makes the morning feel less rushed. I will say this depends on how you feel about coffee that has been sitting for a little bit, but for me, it is still worth using when I am trying to get out the door quickly. The keep warm setting is something I use on pot days. I tend to pour a cup, get distracted with work, and come back later. It keeps the coffee hot enough without me having to reheat it in the microwave. Flavor-wise, any coffee that sits on a warmer will change over time. That is just reality. But for my routine, it stays pleasant for the normal span of a morning. I do not leave it sitting there all day, and I would not expect it to taste great if I did. I also tried the over-ice setting because I do drink iced coffee when it is hot out. This mode makes a stronger brew so that when it hits ice it does not immediately taste thin. In practice, it does what I want. I fill a cup with ice, brew over it, and I get iced coffee that still tastes like coffee. You still have to experiment a little with your ice amount and your cup size, but once I found my usual setup, it became consistent. Taste is always personal, but I can share what I noticed. With grounds, it gives me a solid drip coffee. It is not doing anything weird with temperature or extraction that makes it come out sour or burnt when I use my normal beans. With pods, it tastes like what the pods taste like. The machine is not magically improving a pod, but it also is not making it worse. Consistency has been good across repeated brews, and that matters more to me than anything. Noise levels are about what I expect for a coffee maker, but the pod side is a bit louder during brewing than drip, which is normal. It is not something that bothers me, but if your kitchen is right next to a sleeping area, it is worth knowing it is not silent. Cleaning has been manageable. The drip tray and removable pieces come out easily, and I rinse them regularly. If you use milk or sweeteners, that is more about your cup than the machine, but coffee oils do build up over time. I found that a quick routine of rinsing parts and doing periodic cleaning keeps it from developing that stale coffee smell. I do wish the machine did a slightly better job of guiding you through cleaning reminders in a simple way, because it is easy to forget until you notice the taste starting to dull. There are a couple of limitations I have run into. The machine takes up a decent amount of counter space, and because it is designed to do more than one style of brewing, it is not as compact as a basic drip maker. Also, because there are more moving parts and options, it is not the kind of coffee maker you hand to someone and they instantly know every button. If you have guests, you may find yourself explaining it the first time. After that, it is fine. Overall, this has been a practical coffee maker for my day-to-day. I like having one machine that can handle a full pot when I have people over, and a single cup when I just need something quick. The little design details, like the adjustable cup support and the easy-to-remove water reservoir, make it easier to live with. It is not perfect, and it is not the smallest machine, but it has been reliable for me and it fits the way I actually drink coffee. If you have questions about anything specific, like the way it fits under cabinets, how it does with certain cup sizes, or what settings I ended up using most, leave a comment and I will answer as best as I can. If this video helped, subscribe to the channel and let me know what you want me to test next. Thank you for watching.